places when I go full. My name is Lance Eisenberg. I've been volunteering with the Coalition Wednesday and Friday nights for almost 10 years now. I think November is 10 years. And my basic experience is just being on the street talking to these people for 10 years. You don't need a master's. You don't need a graduate degree. You just need a voice and the ability to hold a conversation. You just gotta remember one thing about these people: they're men and women, like you and me. Sometimes you just want to talk sports. Sometimes you just want to talk current events. Sometimes they don't want to hug. Sometimes you just want to feel like they're talking at the kitchen table. Yes, ma'am.
We've been hearing in Toronto that the situation with homelessness is getting resolved. There aren't as many homeless people in New York City. That, you know, the city of New York has found a quick way to kind of get people from streets to homes really quickly. Yet there's all these people we've been seeing tonight. What's going on?
Well, when politicians talk about, that the homelessness is going down, what they really mean is they're hiding them. Everyone, both parties. I mean, it's homelessness is a nice political tool and not much else. They're not going anywhere. There's no short-term fix. There's ideas out there, but unfortunately, as long as I think, we're dealing with deeper issues in housing here, alcoholism, mental illness, people who have been on the streets for years and really know no other way of living. Now, like I said before, you can hide them and then say, look, it's better. And I had a guy come to a wedding in the city, and he's told me the same thing. He said, there's no homeless out here. I didn't see any driving in. But the truth of the matter is, there's probably a lot more homeless than there was prior to September 11th. We have a lot of new people coming to these trucks that we've never seen before. It's not necessarily hiding. I mean, it's necessarily, I would call it more survival. There's some people who are comfortable with us. There's some people who are just trying. They don't know. They're maybe 1 or 2 years on the street, and they're just trying to, survive. And, I mean, hiding's a bad word, because, like, on a night like this, I mean, we complain when we're wet, but we get to go home and dry off and do all the things that they don't get to do. So maybe, like a night like tonight, they're trying to stay as dry as possible. So they're not even going to come out for the food. They'll be in the subways, in their boxes.
What do you see? Like, you've been doing this for 10 years. You think that these vans will be rolling, 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
Yeah, these vans have been rolling. I'm not sure how long. I've heard 20 years. These vans have been rolling. I don't see. I mean, we just got through the summer, and we served, and Glenn could testify this, we've served more people than I think I've served in any other summer. I would, the message I would send to people who think this, who think that, the politicians in every country promise great things. The message I would tell the people is the homeless aren't going anywhere. They will be there no matter, you can try to beautify it, you can try to clean it up as, and for example, in Atlanta, there's no panhandling in downtown Atlanta anymore. They specifically passed that law because they were afraid of the tourism. Not, they wanted to bring in the tourists. Atlanta's problem right now is they're like third worst in crime. I mean, homelessness, if they think that's going to solve the crime problem. I think there's a thought out there that if you end homelessness, you'll end all these other problems. Or if you just push them away, all the other problems will go away. And it just doesn't. I would remind people to, when, politicians promise grand things during election year and the day after the election, look out the window. I think it's gone beyond housing. I'll be honest with you. I think it's doing this for as many years as I have. It's beyond housing. It's beyond. I think right now the solution is to take the small steps, whatever they need. And in some of these cases, they need that soup for the night. That's what we got to do. And we got to give them the basics. And maybe, hopefully, from those basics, they can take a step up to bigger basics. I think people think grand ideas without, they think suit before thinking socks. They think, haircut before thinking shampoo. Right now the concern for housing is mostly for poor families in New York. That they try to keep families off the street, poor working families. I think I really think it's going to be like that for years to come, because to be truthful with you, you can get the vote of a poor working family. Homeless people don't usually go to the polls.
Second stop out from Brooklyn, because that one leaves at 9:30.
Maybe to get us started, if someone or a couple of you from Toronto, if you could talk a little bit about what's brought you here today.
So we're told in Toronto by city bureaucrats and by councillors who have visited New York that New York has the answer to the question of homelessness. And we're told that you have strategies here to end homelessness and that they're working. But we had looked up some of your material and we realized that that wasn't what the coalition was saying. So, and I should just pose the fact that even we've sometimes, right in the area where street health is located, we've had city bureaucrats from New York come there to watch what Toronto does and that kind of thing, and they're also encouraging Toronto to take some of the steps that New York is taking. So we've come here to find out whether New York has all of these answers, whether some of these things, there are some good programs, and whether things are working or not. Your main material says that there's more homelessness than ever.
They prefer to believe that the homelessness in the city is based on drug addicts, mental patients, or some or other form of something that a person has done to place themselves into a shelter. They refuse to believe that rent, their so-called investment in homes, rents are increasing a lot more than wages is increasing. They fail to believe that minimum wages that they pay people in the city does not put food on the table, let alone to pay for rent and take care of kids and other things. They close their eyes to a lot of problems that is facing people. I'm a working person, and I have lost my home through the owner dying, accidentally falling down the stairs, accidentally dying, and kids sold the house. I have been living there for 10 years, paying my rent, having other source of income, because you can work from your house along with what you make, and you pay your rent. But here I am in a shelter, have nowhere to turn, because the rent that I used to pay, which was $650, is now $800, $900, $1,000, $1,500 for the same size apartment. 20% is an increase in rent every year, only for 5 years. They refuse to know that people's wages don't increase by 20%. And if you stop a person from working for a certain amount where they can have a safety net for in case they lose their job, or in case of sickness, in case of anything, they are not preparing themselves for that. So what is happening? People are entering into these programs or if they are not eligible to get into the program based on the bureaucracy and the red line, the red taping, they choose to go otherwise, share apartment with people. And in so doing, when these things fail, somebody lose their job, they cannot pay rent, they end up into the system all over again. It is a way they recycle people over and over again. It's a way of saying, we reduce the figure now, but they never tell you that the very same people are the people that is increasing the same figure tomorrow or next year or the following year. So in a sense, it's a fraud that they are perpetrating on people as a whole.
It is scandalous. I saw an article earlier this year where they said people making $75,000 a year, were feeling the pinch. They're feeling the crunch. Sometimes going to food pantries.
How come there was an article in the New York Times a couple of days ago that said Bush supporting major new initiative to build housing, $2.4 billion in cities.
You know, the problem with that is a lot of this housing is luxury housing.
Exactly.
And people who can
Condos.
afford luxury
Condos.
housing don't really need the taxpayers' bonds to be helping to finance that. I mean, if you've got Donald Trump's money, you really don't need a taxpayer's bond to help finance your housing.
We went over the bands last night.
Oh, okay.
North, south, east, the north Manhattan.
Okay.
There are counselors in Toronto say there are no homeless people on the streets of New York.
That's not true.
Of course, I saw 150 or maybe 200 people last night
Yeah.
coming out of the dark in various places, sometimes in groups up to 50. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, people are actually entering the shelter, and because of conditions in the shelters, and because of sanctions and different things that are actually taking place in the shelters, because of how they actually speak to people who are in the shelters, people are choosing to take the streets because in this way they are more free than having to be in a shelter and have a roof over their heads.
They don't have to listen to someone tell them exactly what to do, when to do it, how to do it. I think the most prevalent thing in shelters right now are people are afraid to lose their beds. What they do is, if you don't follow exactly what staff tells you to do, they take your bed from you. And either you have a choice of sleeping in a place you don't want to be, or you end up back on the streets anyway. So I think, just like Ivy said, people would rather sleep on the streets and be free than just stay in a shelter. We went to a city council meeting a few months ago. There was a lady there that was in the HSP program, and she was working. She was making $7 an hour, and public assistance sanctioned her. So she lost her job. She lost the public assistance. She lost the apartment. She had a small son, 5-year-old son, and she ended up back in the shelter in less than a year. The HSP program was supposed to be helping her so that she, could work and receive public assistance and then have, like Ivy said, a safety net, but it didn't happen. She ended up $4,000 in arrears on her rent, and she didn't even know it until she got an eviction notice.
It doesn't mind if they put you in a pine box. Somebody just went into one of the SROs they wanted her to get into. She said it's better they bury me in a coffin alive. She said the space is so small. She made some footstep away from her bed, and she said that was all the space. You said it was small, but this is not small. This is just not a room. It's a closet. And if you are thinking of bringing that into trying to place this upon your people, you're in for a long ride and a big crisis, because homelessness is here to stay in New York City. Rent is escalating way too high, where no one except the rich will be able to afford the rent that is in place.